Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. I am the Crypto Crow, and I'm recording this video because I want to make sure that I get everything in, and I didn't want to be distracted because this is going to be pretty important. We're going to tell you, I've seen a lot of people predicting certain things in terms of Bitcoin price. I'm going to make a Bitcoin price prediction and a Cardano price prediction today with all of the new information, and I still think it's conservative, but I think it's going to put things into perspective for you. So we're going to go over a lot of stuff that I think it's going to be pretty eye-opening. First thing I want to do is I want to thank my sponsor, I Trust Capital. If you're looking to stow away your crypto long-term for retirement and get some solid tax advantages associated with a Roth IRA, make sure you check out the links in the description below. I mean, I don't know anybody else that does this. They've been around for quite a while. They've proven their mettle. They've been proving that they're worthy of the business. And talking to these folks, I can tell they're very, very serious about what they're doing. And I'm grateful for their sponsorship. And I'm grateful for the vehicle that they're providing a lot of people. So you make sure you check it out. I Trust Capital. Click the link below and go to their website and read about the tax advantages, how everything works. It's very, very simple. It's not a convoluted mess of stuff you have to go through. They make it easy for you. So definitely check that out. Also, I want to do a shout out to LegacyNetwork.io. Thank you for your sponsorship, Legacy Network. And if you've got kids or you yourself are just generally interested in learning some new things, try out Legacy Network. It's a gamified platform that you can do on your mobile phone with a lot of courses, a lot of things that are basically there to teach you about everything from health, career, psychology, pretty much you name it. If it's a topic of interest to a lot of people, chances are you're not only going to find a course associated with it in this app, but you're going to find a lot of supporting information and ways to teach you in a gamified way so that you're always leveling up. As you're leveling up yourself, you're leveling up yourself in the app. And there are benefits associated with that. So check out Legacy Network. Another link in the description below. Now let's dive into these predictions and see exactly what's going on. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff happening with Bitcoin and the crypto market overall. We've got a pro crypto administration right now, and we're still seeing that unfold, right? We're seeing Senator Loomis, and we're seeing a lot of these pro crypto initiatives being prepared, right? Being prepared to be signed into a law, office, like whatever, right? Depending on what it is. And we see Gary Gensler, who's now out. He's going back to MIT. I just saw recently that the Gemini, the Winklevoss twins, basically said for as long as Gary Gensler's working at MIT, we will no longer be hiring anybody, not even interns from MIT. I'm like, wow, that's a statement. I mean, basically, they're trying to do to Gary what Gary did to the rest of the crypto market the entire time he was in office. Hey, to each their own. They need to list Cardano and Cardano native assets. How about that, Winklevoss twins? We know you're Bitcoin maxis, but let's get real. So anyway, if we're looking at Bitcoin and we're looking at its price action over the years, this is a daily chart. Now, this is a daily logarithmic chart, kind of gets rid of some of the weekend noise and things like that. And if we're looking at the price, you can see this green line here. These are the presidential inaugurations. And it's very simple. If you look at history, the time frame between the presidential inauguration and the next peak of the market is roughly around 300 days, give or take. You've got 305, 308. This one's 325. This was a very, very, like the 2017 market was a market that really pulled a lot of people in, including myself. The 2017 market was an extremely powerful market that basically introduced smart contracts into the blockchain and basically took some of the, let's face it. I mean, it took some of the interest of Bitcoin and started to spread it across smart contract based projects such as Ethereum. Ethereum basically came out and said, hey, we love Bitcoin, but here's a blockchain that actually allows you to do if this, then that type of formulations on the blockchain, creating these smart contracts, creating, other digital assets under Ethereum. We saw the ICO boom. Everybody with a thought or an idea basically wrote some form of white paper and tried to get capital, and they did get capital. I mean, it was as simple as basically throwing, a white paper out on the interwebs and an Ethereum address, and people would just throw their Ethereum at that address and get tokens back. And a lot of those tokens did end up going up and doing extremely well. And you can see from the presidential inauguration on January 20th of 2017, Bitcoin peaked out at around $20,000 on December 9th. This was 325 days after the inauguration. And then, of course, we had the big crash. We came down. And, of course, also you can see here that the pi cycle top oscillator crossed over on that day, which was basically the peak. So this was the 2017 market peak, and the pi cycle top indicator crossed over and basically said, this is it. And then we started to go down. Now, this was also at a time when a lot of us still new to crypto really didn't understand the peaks. We didn't understand the market cycles fully or what they meant for altcoins, right? Because that was the big difference then. Maybe Bitcoin had its cycles, but now there's altcoins, and these altcoins are going to change the world, and these are going to keep the market moving. No, they didn't. It all flowed exactly the way it was intended. We'll just say that. Now, moving forward, of course, we had a lot of ebbs and flows throughout this time period of the bear market. And then we had COVID announced, and then it started sending everything down. I mean, it was a huge, dramatic spike all the way to the downside leading into the next halving. Well, the halving of 2020 then started to increase the price. Okay. And there are new narratives, there are NFTs, and there are DeFi, and there are all these different new narratives in the space because the ICO boom was basically like, what ideas are going to stick? And then the next market was very much about, okay, now that we know, kind of what people are interested in, let's build these applications and let's focus on the greed side of things and, all this other stuff. But anyway, the presidential inauguration was on January 20th. And then we have this first peak here. But I don't consider that the first real peak. I believe this was basically, and you have to put this into perspective. This was a time in 2020, 2021. This is when Jamie Dimon and I think even Larry Fink, a lot of these guys were basically downplaying Bitcoin. They're basically saying it's trash. Don't throw away your money, because they wanted to continue propping up the markets they really controlled. And I think that this was a test for them. I really believe this was a test for them. And I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but for those that are new, to put things into context, back in April and prior to April, I was watching the Bitcoin price action and I was comparing it to traditional market stocks like the NASDAQ. And the NASDAQ charts of 2007 and the Bitcoin chart of 2020 into 21 were identical. Okay. And in the 2007 market, it basically just ran. Okay. In the NASDAQ, and it just kept going. I think it lasted like 10 years or something. I can't remember off the top of my head. I could be mistaken. There might be a variable there that I'm forgetting. It's been a while since I've even looked at it. But this, I believe, this played out almost exactly like a Wyckoff pattern. And the Wyckoff pattern matched the exact same Wyckoff patterns in the NASDAQ, which told me that this was institutional play. This was them trying to see how effectively could they break up and control the price action of a market. That's what I think this was wholeheartedly. I could be wrong, but that's what I believe happened. And that's why instead of like 2017, where we just basically had this consistent flow all the way up to a peak, we got it broken up. I believe that this peak had we not had all of this manipulation and Wyckoff and these major players using their capital to play the market, I believe we would have been somewhere where I believe we're going to be now in this market cycle, because now they're all in, right? Over time, yes, we had the pie cycle, and I believe this was another test. Could they manipulate some of the major key indicators to trigger to throw everybody off? And I really believe this was on purpose. I'm telling you, it may sound like a conspiracy theory, whatever, but I really do believe that this was intentional. I think it was meant to trigger a lot of the indicators. I think that this was all during a period where, we were in the midst of COVID. We were in the midst of so many transitions and changings happening all over the world. And I think people were distracted. And I think this was all one big test across the board, not just in the financial sector, but across everything. What will people put up with? What are we able to do? How much control can we institute? I believe that was what this market cycle was all about. And I think they proved that they were capable of doing pretty much whatever they want. And then we had the big market crash. In the bear market, COVID ends. Lo and behold, we get the first ETF approvals. Who got the first ETF? BlackRock, of course. BlackRock, after so many failed attempts at getting a spot ETF approval by the SEC, BlackRock of all companies. And as soon as we saw that BlackRock was looking to do this and that they were filing, we knew that it was going to get approved. And so the narrative started to change, and everybody started to say, oh, wow, institutions are in play. Institutions are looking to start accumulating Bitcoin. This is going to send things to the moon, myself included. I thought, you know what? They're going to be buying up so much Bitcoin that there's going to be supply shock. And I mean, how long is it going to take before they buy up all the Bitcoin available? And so, we didn't necessarily get that dramatic supply shock I expected, but it is happening. And the available supply of Bitcoin across the board is starting to diminish, especially if you look at how much is being mined and how much is being sold compared to how much these institutions and these spot ETF groups are buying up. I mean, they're buying up like 4 times what's being introduced into the market through mining nowadays. So it's going to continue to shrink. Now, if we move forward again, now we have the halving here. We had this like premature top of $74,190. That was due to the basically everybody saying, oh my gosh, these institutions are buying up all this Bitcoin. We got to buy in. And it was just driving the price higher. Now, from there, we had lo and behold, we had this isn't actually hold on. I need to change this a little bit because this needs to be the 20th. Yeah. So from the 20th, and so there. Okay. And then if we push that out to about 305 days, I have to make some adjustments. There we go. But you get the gist. You can already see what I'm getting at here. So basically what this does, if we were to follow the same price action here and the same length of time, well, what we're looking at is we're looking at approximately 305 days from inauguration, because that's always a key point. It's been a key point in every previous bull cycle. 305 days, roughly, give or take, let's just say give or take a week, but about 305 days, we hit our peak. What is our peak? Well, I'm showing $280 or $280,000 here. Well, why am I showing that? I'm showing this on basically what amounts to November 16th. So basically around my birthday of 2025 this year, we should be peaking in the crypto market. And not only that, but it should be around $280,000. Why do I think that? Well, I'll show you. Because if we go and we look at this Bitcoin rainbow price chart, okay, which some of you guys are going to be like, what is that? This just shows the logarithmic scale of basically how the price doesn't get as high every cycle, but the price does, right? So it's like the momentum of the price action continues to go down a little bit. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't remember the word I'm looking for. Diminishing returns. Now, if we basically go and we set this out to November, let's see, 11. Where's 11? Okay. So if we're out here at November 9th, what's happening? It's not letting me control this as well. All right. Well, it's hard to show you. I had it lined up earlier, but if I basically go to around that period in November in 2025, the price is it shows around $280,000. Why do I settle on 280,000? Could it go higher? It could go higher, but realistically, if we look at the diminishing returns over time on this logarithmic scale that's basically measured out by a rainbow of colors, you can see every market peak is a little bit less than the last one. I believe that this market peak should have been around here and basically should have been, I'm going to say it should have been somewhere around the $120,000, $130,000 mark, somewhere in there, but it wasn't. It was broken up. Now we're getting to a point where I don't think it's going to touch into this dark orange at all. I think we're basically going to peak out somewhere around here in the light orange area around November. It could just be in the yellow area. But if we go dark orange, we're talking a difference of maybe $100,000. So either of those two things could happen. Now, I'm going to settle and say, we're probably looking at somewhere around a $280,000 Bitcoin by November of 2025, which is very common for us to peak around December, November of a year, especially after a new president, all that fun stuff has happened. Now, if we're looking at this price action and we're saying, okay, let's just assume this is true. The number of days is pretty pinpoint. If this plays out the way we expect it to based on previous cycles, what does that mean for Cardano, right? And so I want to basically say, first of all, check out crowtokens.com. I had to do it. Took a little longer than I thought, but I was going to try and be clever with that, but it didn't work out. So anyway, there's definitely some big stuff happening pretty soon with Crow Token. So make sure you check that out. I was kind of trolling you a little bit. People do it on YouTube all the time, and I get a kick out of it. All right. So what does this mean? So basically, if Bitcoin gets to $280,000, what does that effectively mean? I got to go to my notes here because I calculated a bunch of stuff. $281,000 per Bitcoin with 19.81 million Bitcoin available is basically a market capitalization of 5.566610, basically $5.56 trillion market cap. Okay. So at $281,000 with the total supply of 19,810,000,000 Bitcoin, that's a market cap of $5.56 trillion. Now, if we look at dominance, Cardano's dominance ebbs and flows, but generally ends up somewhere around 4%. If we look at this, what do we see here? Well, this is when Charles Hoskinson expects to have Cardano's smart contract functionality layer applying to Bitcoin. So basically the whole Bitcoin OS narrative, the group that came out and said, we're building this thing that's going to basically give Bitcoin smart contract functionality through the Cardano blockchain. But the difference is they wanted the transaction fees to settle in their own token. And Charles said, no, I don't like that. This needs to basically settle in ADA. That's what it was for. That's the whole point. And so Charles said, since you guys are going to do this yourselves your own way, we're going to also create another version of it, and we're going to launch it in May. And it's going to settle transaction fees in Cardano. So what this effectively means is the $5.5 trillion worth of market cap the market capitalization of Bitcoin, all of that value, $5.5 trillion, is effectively going to have access to smart contracts and thereby having access to DeFi, Web3, you name it. Okay, anything that Cardano has to offer is now going to effectively be able to be accessed by the money that is Bitcoin. Now, what does that also mean? Well, that means that all of that money can start flowing into the Cardano ecosystem, and every transaction, everything that happens with that Bitcoin value then becomes settled on Cardano in Cardano. Okay, so you're seeing a lot of throughput. Now, how big that gets really depends. We already know that a big chunk of Bitcoin's profitability starts flowing into the altcoin market, right? What happens when Bitcoin doesn't just flow from like, oh, I made my profit at Bitcoin, I think that's good, I'm going to make more profit down here at some of these altcoins, so I'm going to filter some of that money out here and continue building on my gains. But now I've got access to DeFi and all of the different applications that are fully operable now, fully functional now, and are all the new applications that are going to continue to drop. Not to mention the NFTs, the just all of it. Everything that is Cardano is now going to be a part of Bitcoin. Not only that, but they're working on doing the same thing with XRP Ripple, or Ripple's XRP, and several other ecosystems as well. Not only that, but we're also going to end up with Midnight that becomes a privacy layer for all of it. I'm telling you, folks, I don't really think you realize how big this is. When you put it into context, Cardano will effectively become one of the most powerful blockchains in the world, period. And furthermore, the Plumbin hard fork just launched which effectively activates people like me, D-reps for Cardano, to start voting on the decentralized governance system associated with Cardano, to start dictating things like, where's the money going? How are we going to, what can we do for marketing? What applications deserve to be built? Who deserves to get funding out of the, what is, I think, effectively now like a $2 billion treasury that hasn't been touched since Cardano's inception? People, this continues to grow, and this continues to just get bigger and bigger. This is basically the year most of us in the crypto space have all been waiting for. And I don't really think people effectively understand just how big a deal all of this is. You're going to, but chances are you're going to be late to the game if you're not already into Cardano right now. You need to be in it. You've got to start getting in it. And I don't think there is a bag big enough to say, okay, I've got enough. I used to think there was. I'm not a greedy person. I'm comfortable. I'm happy where things are going to go. So what does this mean for Cardano's price prediction? Well, it's funny. It's funny because if I just took 5%, okay, which is basically about 1% more than the typical 4% we're used to seeing, which to me is so conservative and like silly at this point, given everything that's about to transpire over the next 6 months. But at just 5%, if we take that, that's $278 billion market capitalization. Just 5% of Bitcoin, okay, at that point. So 5% of that, basically, we take that 278 billion, 330,500,000, that equates to, guess what? 7.91 cents, $7.91. Basically, we're back to the $8. Now, I have played with this a bunch of different ways. Dominance is important. The question here is, how much dominance does Cardano truly achieve in this market cycle, given everything that's coming, with everything that's happening? That is the number that is really going to set the tone. I truly believe that we are definitely looking somewhere between 8 and honest to God, I think we could even go to $15 at the end of this cycle when Cardano peaks its peak. Okay. It sounds so insane. And here's the thing about crypto. Over the years, I've made a lot of different predictions, but my number one prediction that I've stuck through for years now has been $8 with Cardano, because all of the potential is there. The only real and you know, at the time, people are like, well, that means your market cap is going to be this much and that's impossible. Stop it. You don't really get it. Market capitalization is yes, it's important, but it can be fundamentally manipulated on so many different levels for so many different reasons that it's not the most important. Okay. What matters to me is use case and adoption. Think about it. When you're talking about calculating in the market cap of an asset. So I'm here and I'm thinking, okay, 5% of Bitcoin going into ADA's total supply. Well, its total supply right now is about 38 billion tokens, right? But what about I don't even know what it is, but I think like 70% of that is basically being held and staked by long-term holders. So how does that 5% really flow in? Because at that point, it's about creating sell pressure with the buy pressure, right? So these numbers are starting to go up and up and up and up like this. As the price goes up, people start deciding, well, is this a good time for me to start selling? Should I basically take my staked ADA because it's not locked, contrary to what all of the Cardano haters that are scared to death of what Cardano's about to do to their favorite bag? These people are always trying to put out these narratives associated with Cardano that are complete bupkis, like they're just garbage, and they know it, but they don't care because they're more about the greed in their own pockets and their sponsors, really, and supporting them in their sponsors' narrative than actually helping their viewers or the public. And they justify it because they support a project whose number typically goes up due to manipulation and a lot of other things, but they don't care about that because they're not here to be good, honest people. They're here to make their money. You know, you watch their channel, make that money, all about the money. They're disgusting people to me. I mean, truly, they're disgusting. But anyway, it is what it is. It takes both sides of the world, I guess. But the reality is that as the price is going up, then there's sell pressure. And the question is how much flows into the Cardano ecosystem before a larger number of people decide to sell what they have had staked now for years. Okay. So, you know, even if it were just 5% dominance, that could be 10%. I mean, we don't know. It could be 7%, 5 to 10%. So we could double that figure, and then that money could flow in, and the sell pressure, depending on how quickly ADA's price goes, which we know happens very quickly. I'm telling you, at this point, the sky is the absolute limit. And so, you know, I $8 to $15 is my guess in 2025. I do think we're likely going to peak in November. Now, typically, we also have to understand that Bitcoin typically peaks before the altcoin market does. So we could get a November peak for Bitcoin and then, you know, gosh, it sounds terrible. Makes me want to vomit. Another January peak for like the altcoin market. So, and the thing of it is depending on where we are in the price at whatever time of year it is, and as it relates to Bitcoin's price and its time of year and all of that, I don't necessarily see a lot of people waiting. But after all has been said and done, this will be the first time we've had a bull market with all of these things lining up. The stars have aligned where, you know, everything is just matching up perfectly. And we're in a pro-crypto administration. And I'm telling you, folks, when I say $7 to $15 or $8 to $15 for Cardano, 280,000 for Bitcoin, folks, that could all be conservative this time around. Because quite frankly, what I am anticipating happening when I see Trump and I see everything he says, when I see him addressing the World Economic Forum, when I see him addressing everybody that's been trying to hold crypto down in the public as a whole, I really do believe it's game on. I really do believe this is good versus evil in a lot of ways. And I do believe that this is about empowering the people once and for all, and keeping everything organized, keeping everything efficient. I do believe that there are going to be some narratives associated with what may change over the course of the next 4 years in terms of like identity and things of that nature that a lot of people are going to try and use to say, well, this is going to be used against us. This is going to be, and it's possible it is, but I do believe that the intent is to try and keep everybody secure, to keep elections secure, to start basically making everything more efficient and secure and holding people accountable to the things that they do. There are going to be a lot of people out there that do not want that. And when I look at all of it and I think about all of those narratives that are coming, I mean, it's all coming. And I think to myself, what blockchain is likely going to be the biggest proponent or provide the most utility, the most functionality, and effectively just be able to be used for any of this stuff? It's Cardano. I think this is going to be the year that really sets Cardano apart from everything else in the market. I think this is the year of Cardano Flex. So until next time, grow your coins. Thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon.